You can't stop me now. Can't stop me now. My feet have come too far for you to tie them to the ground. Can't stop me now. Can't stop me now. Set my sights on where I'm going at and turn it back around. Can't stop me.
Good evening and welcome to the coffee shop. I'm Aeson Knight, and I've got I knew I would mess this name up because I say Nina, and okay. With me tonight, and you're working on probably one of the more famous stars of all Hollywood, the one that gets channeled the most, the one that they keep bringing up, and I'm like, can we just get it right? So tell us about your two projects you're doing.
Yeah, so I am working on all things Marilyn, so to speak. So we have a podcast, which is Marilyn Behind the Icon, which is all of the stars' life of Marilyn Monroe. And it's a dramatic podcast. So it's not like a talking podcast like you and I are doing right now. It's actually with actors. And we have a famous, really, she's worked on stage as Marilyn. She's really a beautiful embodiment of the actress who's hard to play. And then we have a TV docuseries that is dealing with not only just the investigation of Marilyn Monroe, but the mental health and addiction aspects, not only that related to stars back in the day, but also the celebrity and everyday life, particularly trying to come out of COVID and world events. It's a pretty serious secondary issue that's happening with COVID right now.
Right. And it's a major secondary issue. It's the underflux of it. What's really weird is how it's really masking what we've seen in the early 20s that led us into like the Maryland situations and other things like that. And can we talk about that for a moment? How stars in themselves during that time would be prescribed medicine to lose weight, to get up on time, to go to bed on time, to look the part, do the part. What have you found about that? Because that's not, everyone talks about her being the Kennedy's girlfriends, but no one ever talks about the system that she was stuck in.
Yeah, I think the system at that time, when you really look at it, the studio system, the celebrities of that day, they were given, medication to wake up in the morning, medication, heavy barbiturates to go to sleep at night. And what was happening is they'd even give you B12 shots laced with barbiturates. So if you think about the antiquated aspect of that, what we know today, I'm sure 60 years from now, they'll be saying the same thing about us. But back 60 years ago, you're scratching your head going, how in the world could that be healthy? But that was a norm back then. Look at Judy Garland, very much, a lot of those stars at that time were given those types of prescriptions. So.
Right. And it was not a thing. It was like, oh, you're in a show? Okay, here's your 14 prescriptions because you now have these problems. I mean, because we lost her as a treasure. We lost Elvis Presley as a treasure. Recently, we lost Michael Jackson, all because of
Whitney Houston, Keith Ledger, Prince. I mean, Prince to some degree with his back, his pain. Prescription drugs, I think, is also one of the most challenging things because I think people think about it from the perspective of it's prescribed. So They don't realize how dangerous it is, particularly in today's standards, because it's laced with so much more,
Right. And, it's not only laced with more, it's now more impactful. And, we were all the prescriptions Maryland's, let's talk about this. How much was her doctor overprescribing and getting her hooked? Like, were we seeing what we were seeing with Michael Jackson, which was fake prescriptions and fake names, sort of like her assistants and her secretary going and getting the drugs for her? Or were they all basically just handed to Marilyn?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think it's one that we have to understand from the perspective of today. So if you think about the doctors of yesterday, they were not brought up on charges. But if those two doctors Marilyn was alive today, they would probably be brought up on charges just like Michael Jackson doctor was, because what they did is they prescribed lethal doses. And when you really think about, regardless of whatever nefarious happened to Marilyn, her doctors are surely responsible. And I'm going to give your viewers and listeners a chance to kind of let this sink in.
Right.
3 months before she passed away, she was given 900 prescription pills. 700 of them were sleeping pills. And when you think about that, 3 months before who in the world is taking 900 pills, let alone 700 of them sleeping pills? She had a very strong sleeping disorder. But the challenge, what they did is, and this is even in 1962 standards, those doctors should never have given anybody, let alone a star like Marilyn Monroe, and they probably did more often than not, the prescription of chloral hydrate and Nebutol. And it was the chloral hydrate, very similar to what was given to Michael Jackson. Those two in combination are lethal.
Right.
Nobody other than a doctor should be administering those types of drugs.
Right. And those should be under supervision, like only given it to a doctor.
Yes.
Now, they say that the doctor visited her that day, the day before. Is there
The day that she died. Yeah, the day that she died. And it wasn't unusual. A lot of people think, oh my gosh, why was the doctor coming over on a Saturday, etc. Some of these, I think it's really interesting. Back in the day, they were seeing their therapist sometimes every day, which I thought was really kind of interesting. Now you might go once a week, maybe twice a week, but you're certainly not going to go every day to a therapist. But back then they were doing that type of treatment.
Yeah. Talk therapy daily, which I'm not sure how much that helped, how much that hurt. But is there any, I've heard rumors that there was Mickeying with her medicines then. Like, should she have been on a different sleeping medicine? Because granted, she was an insomniac.
Yeah, I think, what the problem was is back then they didn't have a treatment for probably what was happening with her. She was already diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And then you have as a depressive. So those two things. But what they didn't diagnose, because they didn't have the diagnosis back then, was borderline personality, which based on her her makeup was, she certainly, borderline personalities usually birthed out of some type of trauma, and Marilyn Monroe had a lot of trauma in her childhood. So that fragmentation, so you got borderline personality, and then you've got a depressive disorder, which when not treated well, those 900 pills that I was just telling you about actually based on her disorder, made her problem even worse. So the sleeping disorder got worse instead of better. It wasn't treating the problem, really. It was just masking it.
If it was even masking it, and, plus you have a tolerance level occurring there, because this wasn't the
huge tolerance. Yeah, huge tolerance level. She certainly could take a lot and not, if I took that kind of medication, I'd probably be gone, but people that are used to taking those types of drugs definitely build up that type of tolerance.
And we see that today in chronic pain patients. And the way the FDA has mismanaged that completely, patients, are used to, they build a tolerance level, they build past the therapeutic level. And it's like, okay, so looking at Marilyn's situation, what are some of the things you've debunked? That have just proven
how much time do you have, Aeson?
Honey, I can stream for 8 hours straight, so don't sorry. You don't want to
Oh my gosh. That's a loaded question. So let me back up the truck just a little bit.
Okay.
When I got involved in it, we were working on a feature film that isn't a biography around Marilyn. It's a thriller called Goodnight Marilyn. And Goodnight Marilyn is the backdrop of her life, but really it's a fact and fiction kind of blend, thriller noir, ultimate whodunit. So I kind of went into this story thinking everything that I had read or watched or heard about Marilyn was absolutely true, without even thinking that it couldn't be. And I went into it thinking that the mob killed her. That was my version of what I was thinking, that I summed it up in my head. And just like other fans that come up to me now and they'll point their fingers and go, Nina, it was the doctors. Nina, it was the Kennedys. Nina, it was the mob. It was the government, etc. I don't think at that point you were I wasn't going to change my mind about what I thought or believed.
Right.
What I realized when we started the process of the film, and then we started doing a radio show, an investigation show called Goodnight Marilyn Radio, that's where this all started, is I compiled, which is now a 22-person expert team. So you're talking forensic pathologists, you're talking medical and, legal professionals, police, homicide, police detectives, etc. And then mental health professionals. I started to go, wow, what do you mean that's not true? And the Marilyn experts, people that are true Marilyn experts, they know what Marilyn was drinking the day that she died at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, it's amazing the level of detail that they have gone through.
Right.
So now when you look at her death,
Mm-hmm.
you've got 60 years of rumors built on rumor after rumor after rumor. So it becomes a really complex unlayering
Right.
of
You have to take
what
out
you
the
think
onion.
is true. So
Right.
what we're trying to do with people is to give them the truth from the perspective of go into it as much as you can with an open mind, because just like me, I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't going to change my mind because I had a belief. But
Right.
if you think about the media today, we've
Uh-huh.
got all this commentary at us. What's the truth? What isn't? And how we have really made this an easy digestible for people to really kind of follow it, because it becomes, there's so many characters and people
Right.
in the story that you're like, who's that person, etc. So
Right.
what we've done is we separate it from fact. This is an actual fact.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a probable theory, and then here's an outlandish rumor.
Right.
Because what they do in these documentaries and in these books is they blend all these together and then they call it fact. And so you walk away from the story thinking everything that you just heard was the truth, when in reality, it might have been just a fraction of the truth and then all of this rumor behind
Right. Because, I'll be honest, I've heard that Bobby Kennedy and the FBI did it. Supposedly that she was on arguments with him the day of. I keep saying the day before because for some reason, I keep thinking that she passed away at like 4 a.m.
Yeah, she died way before 4 a.m. So but what she did die, she probably might have even died on April 4th, not April 5th. I mean, August 4th, not August 5th.
Yeah.
So when you look at August 4th, she died either close to midnight or, slightly
Right.
after. And the reason why we know that is the autopsy shows that Marilyn did not die quickly. She
Right.
died over time. She went into a coma for a few hours. Her body was still registering, and then she slowly slipped off and passed away. So that level of dying was not it wasn't probably a painful process, but she went into a coma and then never came out.
Right. And her body just basically got depressed, because that's what all these drugs do, is depress the blood system, depress the sensory system to lock it out.
And she only had a little bit, if nothing, in her stomach. So I think she had a grapefruit earlier in the morning for breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she got up late, but she didn't have, if you think about it, that's all she had. And then she had all these heavy sedatives in her system. And, just think about it for somebody, even for yourself, who maybe not be addicted. All of a sudden you take one thing and then you get a little drowsy, and then and she didn't have any alcohol in her system. A lot of people think that she was drinking that day, she was boozing it up, and she just was taking all these pills. It wasn't that way. And so when you think about like, oh, I've taken a few, and then you get loopy, and then you start talking to people, and then you take some more, and then pretty soon, if you're combining those two drugs, like I just told you about, that's a lethal combination.
Right. But the point with that is also a lethal combination for her level of medicine.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
It's not just anybody's level, it's her level, level of tolerance, because she may have taken 20 pills in a night to get to sleep. I mean, because
it was quite a few, and I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but it was close, I think, and I might be misquoting here. It's either 48 total or 48 in one of those drugs. So it might have been 22 in chloral hydrate and 48 in another. But when you think about those types of drugs, I mean, that's a lot of drugs being put in your system at one time,
Exactly. And she was already on a high dose of them to begin with, which causes more of the side effects, more of the stuff. And it should have never occurred. Yeah. It should have never occurred. So there was no alcohol found in her system.
No, she was not drinking. And most people think that because they see her with a drink or something, they think that she was a heavy drinker. She actually wasn't a heavy drinker, by the way.
No, she was very much a stage drinker.
Yeah. She was not
the image she was supposed to portray. I mean, if we look at Mae West and the image that she portrayed, Marilyn was very much in that box, we could say. She was supposed to look flirty. She was supposed to look dumb. And she wasn't dumb.
No, she was not dumb. No dumb. No, she was not a dumb blonde, as they say. No, she was not.
Yeah. I mean, because, a lot of people don't know, and you brought this up, and I had never heard that she had her own production company.
Yeah. So, a lot of people look at her as her character, and she was really quite far from it. So that
Mhm.
shows her acting skills because she really
Right.
wasn't that person per se. She got entrapped by it, but
Right.
she was not the heart of Marilyn was not Marilyn Monroe, the character.
Right.
But she was extremely bright. She like Lucille Ball and Mary Pickford formed
Mhm.
their own production companies, and Princeton the Showgirl was one of her production company.
Mhm.
Production. So, people don't realize how also meticulous she was about her image. She was very calculated of how
Mhm.
she put her image out there, etc. So she wasn't like, oh, let me just see whatever comes out, right? She was very clear about the brand she wanted to portray.
Mhm. And that's a buzzword right now. Your brand, your personal brand. And I always recommend go study the classics. Go study
Yeah.
Maryland, study Mae West, study all these old Hollywood stars because they either crafted their own image or they were crafted by it.
Yeah, that's very true. And that's the other thing that most people think, that she slept her way to the top. And what I learned, particularly from our podcast, not so much the investigation into her life, but the
Mhm.
podcast version, all of her life. And the podcast is based on Gary Vitaco Robles's book. It's volume 1 and 2. It's a very, if you want a really in-depth biography of her,
Mhm.
it's the icon lifetimes and films of Marilyn Monroe.
Mhm.
But one of the things that I think is really important that people don't know, and I learned this through the podcast, she stood up to Fox, Daryl Zanuck. He was telling her that she couldn't hang out with, and at the time they called them called African Americans Negroes, and she was out just playing with her friends,
Right.
and they were getting ready for Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, and he called her a commodity and said, "You will not be hanging out with those people." And she's
Mhm.
like, "You cannot tell me who I can hang out with. And you, of all people, because he was Jewish, should be, creating tolerance for people because of what happened, not so far off from the 1940s with the Holocaust." And
Right.
she stood up to him. She said, basically, if he goes, I go.
Right.
And when you think about that, a lot of stars, I don't know, would do that. The other thing she did is that she, is as much as she was a sex symbol, as much as that she might have used that to her advantage, she
Mhm.
also did not want to be typecast as, what would be called the Me Too movement.
Mhm.
So, Harry Cohn over at, Columbia certainly had the rounds of all the starlets that he would put through the casting couch. And, she basically told him, no, not
Yeah.
going to do it. So,
Right.
she wasn't one that just rolled over just because. And I think
Right.
sometimes people give her that reputation as if she's, this casting couch. And she worked very hard on her craft. And most people
Mhm.
don't realize that.
Right. And also that she was very quiet when not having to deal with people.
Yeah. The thing I think with her is she was a very sensitive soul.
Mhm.
She would totally believe in, she was very much into the metaphysical,
Mhm.
mysticism. She certainly seeked out knowledge
Mhm.
and was a ferocious reader. I mean,
Right.
seriously, for somebody who was not skilled or schooled, she certainly had a lot of ability to read, not just, simple books. I mean, some of
Right.
them were philosophical, some huge, huge books. I think when she died, she had about 400 books in her library, something like that.
Mhm. So let's talk about some of the other rumors about Marilyn. And let's talk about the obvious. What was her marriage to all three bats? Mickey Manilow.
So Marilyn was married 3 times, and the first one with Jim Daughtry, who was basically arranged marriage. Marilyn was 16 years old at the time. Her
Mhm.
guardian, which was Grace Goddard, and her husband were going to be moving out of state, and they
Uh-huh.
didn't have the funds or the ability to be able to bring her with them.
Uh-huh.
So what they thought of is, well, she's 16. This guy just got back from the war. Let's hook them up, and then she'll be married off and she'll be taken care of. So unfortunately at 16 years old, that was, and I think she, went into it naively at 16. I think any 16-year-old, and she, I think, thought, okay, this is what I'm going to do. But when he went off and he was away, she started working at, where they did the airplane parts and stuff, for, if you think about it, it was the 1940s, right? And she started to, oh my gosh, I'm going to, be able to start working. And she was spotted. And that's part of the way that she started to get her intro into modeling.
Right.
And when you think about that, that started her career. And, he just certainly didn't want her in acting and stuff. And so, she saw a pathway and she's going for it,
Exactly. Because, at that time it was still current, like, oh, you're an actor.
Yeah, I mean, it just wasn't, and especially for women, if that's, this is your wife. So they got divorced. And then her next marriage was to Joe DiMaggio. And Joe DiMaggio was a marriage that did not last long, but I also think that he came to be one of her biggest protectors and probably one of the most loyal people, and sincerely cared about Marilyn. And I think, one of the things you'll see if you are reading about her or learning about her is that, she didn't really have a lot of people that actually cared for her, and, that she didn't pay. Or wasn't out to maybe get something for themselves. And he was highly protective over her. But for as a marriage, though, he was in retirement and she was at the height of her career. Right. And so as much as I think in philosophy, she thought, oh my God, this would be great. I could finally start, we could be a housewife. I can start my family. And I think she really wanted to be a mother. I think that wasn't where her energy was at the time. Right. And so it didn't last long, and it really broke up right when she was doing the 7-Year Itch. And, that famous scene in the, underneath the subway when her white dress flies up, right? They were filming that. I think it was like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. All these guys were on the street of New York City. Joe DiMaggio comes down to see what's going on and just cannot stand the fact that all these guys are heckling at his wife and she's letting them do it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that was the beginning of the end. And after that, they got a divorce. But, if you listen to the podcast, you'll hear he's also the one that actually comes to save her from a actual true event that happened at Payne Whitney when she was committed to a mental institution. And he was the one that actually got her out. So, he came to the rescue. Joe came to the rescue. And then the third marriage is Arthur Miller. Mm-hmm. And she was married to him for about 5 years. And they lived predominantly in New York City. And she left her very lucrative contract in Fox and said, I want to become a real actress. And so think about the level of risk that she would take that a lot of celebrities wouldn't take. I'm going to give up my career. I'm going to just study the acting portion of it. And
right. So, and what they don't, I don't think my audience will understand is during that time, actors were paid like $650 a week.
Yeah. They don't realize Marilyn actually at the time of her death, I think she had about $5,000 to her name. Joe DiMaggio paid the down payment to her house too. I mean, right. She was not one that really cared about money from that perspective, and she didn't. She would borrow. Greg Schreiner, who is the president of Maryland Remembered, told me one time that she would actually go back and borrow things from the studio lots to wear for certain things. It wasn't like she had this big wardrobe of all this stuff, So
yeah, and it's I think she's one of the stars that's gotten forgotten here lately. So I'm glad we're doing a podcast because it's one of the more intriguing and detailed star stories of like, gotta watch that. Gotta watch how you're packaged. Gotta watch your branding. Like, the young ones coming up now and, Britney Spears' big stories now and that type of thing. Very close. Could have been a Marilyn Monroe copy story there.
Well, in some ways it is. I mean, she certainly had addiction issues. She certainly has mental health issues, or did. And, and then she also had people that were trying to control her, and so the good thing about Britney Spears is she's still alive and she's finding her own sense of freedom and her own sense of health right now, which I think Marilyn actually wanted to do as well. She wanted to get healthy and strong. And it wasn't like she didn't, but back then they treated everybody a little bit differently with these heavy barbiturates.
Right, and there wasn't a choice in it because some contracts were even wrote, you will take what the studio doctor tells you.
Yeah, yeah. In this case, she did have a studio doctor, but it wasn't so much that. She had a very famous psychiatrist named Dr. Ralph Greenson. He
Mhm.
treated other famous celebrities like Frank Sinatra and I think Cary Grant as well, but other ones I'm sure that I'm not even mentioning. And he had very unusual treatment. So one of the things that he would do is he wanted Marilyn to feel like she was part of a family. So he actually, kind of involved her into family outings and had her come to the house. Unfortunately, what happened is that it became very much of an enmeshment codependent issue, not one of, oh, you can do it on your own. It became an enabling aspect. And I just think that some of his unorthodox treatment, there's a reason why you have doctor patient, not that enmeshment of now
Right,
you're almost like a family member.
exactly. How much has the field changed? Like, you've worked with experts that are psychologists looking over what this doctor did. How many of them are like, how in the hell did this go on?
You know, that's a really good question. It's one that I'm really grappling with right now because of mental health and addiction issues in Maryland's story. I've been asked to talk about this as it relates to today to mental
Right.
health professionals. I think there is a huge gap in the system, and there's multiple gaps, and it's a complex issue.
Okay.
Because what you have is you have the celebrity of today that goes to a high level rehab center that might go 4 or 5 times, et cetera, and they keep on going through.
Mhm.
Then you have this issue right now that's happening, that happens a lot, where you have these rehab facilities that actually are just making money. So unfortunately, there was a couple of years ago, there was I think it was 2020 that they did this segment on, where it was in Florida, but I'm sure it's happening all over the country, where
Right.
these rehab facilities have, let's say, these directors, and they get you in a 28-day program. And the
Right.
minute you walk out the door, they're right down the street to actually give you the drugs so that you can come back in. So
Right.
they continually make money. It's not really about health, it's about money. So you have that aspect. Then you have the smaller, where people that actually maybe are homeless, they're addiction, they don't have any resources. And then you have programs like that.
Hmm.
Where the big challenge that I'm seeing, and also nobody talks to each other. So you have a
Right.
program over here, but nobody knows about it. So
Right.
there's this a systemic issue because there's tons of resources, there's tons of treatment, and yet we're at epidemic proportions. So when
Right.
you look at yesterday and you look at today, you're going, it doesn't make sense because
Right.
you have all this new stuff. You have more than enough resources, but it's not getting fixed. And it's that middle issue. So think about the single mother, the single dad that might have an addiction issue.
Hmm.
And you know what? They've got 2 kids, and then they were in COVID on top of it.
Right.
How in the world are they going to go, oh, I'm going to go away for treatment? Who's going to pay the bills? Who's going to take care of the kids? We don't have it set up to where mental health is really part of ongoing everyday life. And I think it should be. I don't think it should be something where we wait till there's a crisis and then fix it. Why aren't we making mental health part of everyday life instead of something that we're looking to treat when it's magnified beyond where somebody's actually collapsing in their home?
Exactly. And, looking at those, we're looking at 62 comparative to, well, it's well over 50 years now.
Hmm. Yeah,
This is
60. Yeah,
insane. Okay. This
yeah,
isn't,
it is.
this should have been fixed back then. It could have been very much fixed. But there was no really call to attention. I mean, we lost one of the brightest stars of Hollywood, one of the smart women of Hollywood. And it was kind of like, oh, she overdosed. And then you start getting these airhead stories about like the Kennedys killed her, the mob killed her, the doctor killed her, the studio killed her. She saw something she shouldn't had, and all these other intermingled things. When no, it really boils down to mental health was a disgrace back then. It's still a disgrace now.
It is, and I think that regardless of what you think happened to her or didn't happen to her, or if you think that she was murdered, the responsibility isn't just on the doctors, it's on Marilyn herself. She was, she's a full grown human being.
Mhm.
But, when you are not getting sleep, you start to kind of lose your mind anyway. And this kind of sleep deprived that she was, I mean, we're talking, she wasn't sleeping for days. And so
Right.
when you think about that, you start to, I think about, I mean, right now I'm sleeping well, but times that I haven't, it really affects your everyday life. So
Yeah.
you get irritable and everything else. And so, then you're on these drugs, and these drugs affect your personality. And so, and with her disorder, people used to think that, oh, she was just late. She was a difficult star. She really had a challenge in her own mental
Right.
mindset to be able to come to the set and really prep herself to get there. That she wasn't late just to be late. She was late because she was fighting her demons inside.
Right. And she was fighting, dealing with stuff inside. And yeah, she had staff. She had a secretary. She had this. She had that. They can only do so much.
Yeah.
I mean,
And then the question is, you have a lot of, even today, you have a lot of yes people around you as a
mhm,
celebrity. And so are you having people around you that are actually helping you or hindering you? And I think that's one of the biggest challenges we have with anybody that's either a celebrity or some type of famous person with power, because there's always going to be that yes person that's going to tell you what you want to hear.
well, not only that, but there's going to be the person, and they don't even have to have power. They have the ability to sign your check.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
They're, sorry, it's human nature, and especially in the corporate world. Well, do I look stupid? Oh, no, honey, you don't look stupid at all. Did you sign my paycheck?
Yeah, 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 exactly, exactly.
And she was having to deal with that. She was, studio pressure on her. And then, we throw her into the politic world,
Yeah, yeah,
whether willing or not willing.
well, one of the episodes we just launched in February was called Soul Sisters. And so what we do is we give light to the Happy Birthday, Mr. President, that most people, it gets overshadowed because all you hear is rumors about President Kennedy and Marilyn Monroe. And one of the things that I even thought going into, and most people think that Happy Birthday, Mr. President was a seduction song to him. What they
Right.
don't realize is it was rehearsed, it was planned out, it was on paper, and she just performed Marilyn Monroe. It had nothing to do with, oh my God, she's so nervous and she's getting out there and she's now singing a seductive song.
No, she's doing her part. She's acting it out.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what did y'all find looking at her life?
Oh,
Anything
there's
about
still
the
more.
case?
There's still more to uncover here, but yes, what I have found is that I have shifted from, oh yes, the mob killed her, to more of, there's still some more evidence to uncover. So you'll see that in the TV docuseries and even part of the radio docuseries that we're going to be uncovering. But one of the things that I think you aren't going to see in any other kind of podcast or documentary is the other side of where Bobby Kennedy was the day of August 4th. That's a Saturday.
Right.
So what we've done, and we've done a really good job of doing it, is, and it's painstaking, because just think about 60 years of, oh, this is what happened in Maryland, and you get a story, and then you have to uncover where is the actual root of that story. And sometimes it takes days, hours, or maybe even months to try to find that. And some of the things we're trying to still find. But one of the things that we came across in terms of evidence is actually where Bobby Kennedy was on I keep on saying August 4th, and maybe because we're coming up on it, but August 4th. And you can't, he was actually in San Jose
Right.
the day before she died, or her death day.
Uh-huh.
And what they didn't show before is you had people testifying to that, but you
Right.
never saw the pictures. Now we have pictures. And
Mhm.
it's really hard to discredit when you see two other families besides Bobby Kennedy's on a horse in the hills of San Jose. It's
Right.
really hard to put yourself in Los Angeles at 3:30 in the afternoon on a Saturday. So the one thing I will say to the audience is that if you think that Bobby Kennedy was there during the day with Peter Lawford, the day that Marilyn died, he was not there during the day, for sure.
For sure. It's been confirmed. Okay.
Been confirmed.
Uh,
Yes. There is proof.
Right. There is proof.
And not just hearsay.
But do y'all go into the personal relationships of the people that around her, like Bobby Kennedy and the supposed 3-hour
Yeah.
phone call that occurred, or the Jackie not ever talking to her, not even acknowledging her, but being snuck into the White House.
So you got to also put yourself, I want people to understand something. There is a lot of rumor around, and you'll see it because Maryland season is going to start coming out. And so you're going to start to see Maryland's Red Diary. Oh my gosh. So I thought for sure that was true and that was just missing. Well, if you do the research on it, you'll find that there is a Red Diary, but the Red Diary was a book of poems, and it was found by an actor named Ted Jordan, I think is his name. And he basically started the rumor that it was their diary. And then when he was pressed by the LAPD in the 1982 DA report, he came clean and said, well, actually, it was just a book of poems.
Right.
A lot of people want to be famous in the story. So
of course, they all want a piece of that. I mean, that's why I get annoyed when, we're channeling Maryland, August of this year at such and such and I'm like, please leave her and Houdini alone. They have enough phone calls. They even hired assistants on the other side to deal with them.
Very, very true. Very, very true. So, Marilyn, her spirit, I mean, she's got over 14 million Facebook fans. I mean, she's one of the biggest celebrities who have passed away. Next to Michael Jackson and Elvis Presley, she is probably the third highest grossed celebrity in her death. And if you think about it, Elvis Presley and Michael Jackson had music libraries. That's
Right.
what makes them so big.
Right.
The fact that she did not have a big music library shows the popularity of her today.
Yeah, and she didn't own any of the rights to her movies either.
Yeah. So she didn't have a publicity clause. So you can't use the name Marilyn Monroe as a signature, but you can use a lot of her photos as long as they're not they're public domain photos. So
right. But like the movies like Cattle on Tin Roof and other ones, she didn't make a dime off of them other than her salary.
Yeah, so she did not make any. Well, after her death, she's certainly made a lot of money. But some of the most famous films that she has are still popular today, like Some Like It Hot and River Runs Through It and 7 Year Itch and Gentlemen Prefer Blondes and How to Marry a Millionaire. I mean, those are some huge. The Misfits was her last film that she did with her husband Arthur Miller, who he wrote that film for her. It was a dramatic film for her. It was also a hard film for her because that was kind of the ending of her marriage. She had a miscarriage. I mean, one of her biggest dreams was to become a mother. And so when you think about losing your marriage, losing your baby, it was a really hard time. And I think that was a year and a half before she died. So you think about that spiraling, and then you start the medication that you up those kind of doses of that medication. And it becomes, a really big challenge for her to overcome.
Very much so. And a very difficult one. I mean, to overcome, to even focus on, imagine riding this roller coaster from one drug to the next. From one wake up mad, okay, that lasts 4 hours. One close down mad, that lasts, hopefully it'll kick in. You get a couple hours sleep before you got to take your wake up mad to be on set. I mean, that's why they had a lot of trouble out of her getting her there.
Yeah. Well, and also you got to understand something. She had a family of mental health disorders. And so the legacy of Marilyn in terms of her mental health, when you're dealing with an acute mental illnesses that Marilyn had, and you're not treating them properly, after a while, just like with anybody, it starts to get to an extreme. And that certainly it was getting worse instead of better. And then you have a dependency on her, her psychiatrist, Dr. Greenson, and that's unhealthy on top of it. So you have, a lot of people get very confused because they think Marilyn was really happy or they're really sad. And if you think about a human being, I can be happy and sad in one day, but the level of up and down had to do with her drug intake versus her lack of sleep than it had to do with trying to put her in a box and say, oh, she was happy or sad. She certainly was on her way up in regards to her intention. So I can have a strong intention and then emotionally not be able to hold that together. You know what I mean? For a lot of different reasons. But I think she had a strong intention of getting healthy and happy. And I think she was on her way there, but the treatment wasn't necessarily going to get her there.
Mm-hmm. So obviously she wouldn't be alive still today.
No.
But what would have been elder Marilyn Monroe, do you think?
If Marilyn would have been able to transform, I actually think that she might have either stayed in acting for just a little bit, but I actually think her spirit, Norma Jean, was a more simple person. I don't think she was all that. I think she loved acting. I think she didn't love the fame that came with it. I think the very thing that she envisioned to be was not really what it was supposed to be. And if you think about a lot of us, we think that we want this dream of this limelight and this fame, and then you realize how empty it is.
Right.
And I think really at the end of the day, Marilyn Monroe wanted to be loved and to love, just like all of us. And I think that's what attracts us to her. And I think she would have probably moved out of LA. She would have been maybe a poet, an artist of some kind, and she would have lived more of a quieter life or more family life. But she might have even moved into producing and more directing and stuff. But I don't think that she would have been the Marilyn Monroe that you saw at 36. She wouldn't be that person if she was still alive today at 96, moving into her 96th birthday. She would not have been, the 96-year-old per se. She would have been a different 96-year-old. She would have evolved. She was a very deep soul when you look at her poetry. So for anybody that is going to be watching either like on the newsstands, the Star magazines, and when you write like a teenager, she was not that kind of person. Some of the words that she would write in her poems were deep, they were tortured, and they were sometimes very dark and sad. And so, but she was very, very deep in her thinking, and she was a sensitive soul. She probably was somewhat psychic herself,
Right. And that's very highly possible, especially with her being bipolar. The other medical asset of immunity disorder theory, with that psychics normally have some level of either manic, very highly autistic, something of oversensoration, and then they'll have an immunity disorder.
And so at the very least, very empathic and very sensitive. And she cared a lot about people. She cared about civil rights. She cared about animals. I find her extremely fascinating as I've gotten to know her over the years. I think there's a lot of not just life lessons, but a really beautiful soul to get to know, and different parts of herself. And I think as people don't, if you put her in a box, you really can't. And I think the message here is, let's not judge somebody before we really get to know them. And I think it's so easy in today's social media, posting environment and, being able to write anything we want in social media to judge very quickly. And I think in this world, I think one of the biggest messages I want to get across to the audience is utilize her life and death for somebody to really think about, in this world right now. I think we all need a little bit more heart. And if she could be that spark plug that allows us to see that lighter side and that more loving side in all of us, I think, she'd love that legacy to be presented.
I think she would. I think that, looking at the deeper person, the writings, and the stories that's come out from like the secretary that has spoke very rarely, but did speak about real stuff. I'm not talking the sensational stuff. I'm talking about B-roll stuff that gets snuck in there. Now, something your show has done that's quite interesting is you guys have gone back and debunked a lot. Like biographies, y'all guys debunked. Garbage. What was it?
Oh, you just wait. We've got a couple of great books that have come out in the last couple of years that, after reading them, I was like scratching my head because everything I'm saying to you is they be careful. I mean, in the day of media today, we're all being told and served up commentary, a lot of commentary, including my commentary. And all I'm saying is, hey, you know what? check it. Is it a fact? Is it a theory, or is it an outlandish rumor? And most people present, whether they're writing something or they're talking about something, they
Mhm.
present it in a story like, so you don't know the difference. And I
Right.
think that's where we're all getting a little caught up in, and we walk around with these beliefs. And what I have found in the Maryland story is it's so laced with so much rumor that
Mhm.
you can't even tell what is true and what isn't anymore. It's a really, that story to me is more fascinating than the fact that, you know what, she died 60 years ago. You have a 60-year legacy now that is based predominantly on rumor.
Right. And studio buzz and what they wanted the press to know and what they did not want the press to know. Question: did the secretary call the ambulance or the doctor first?
Okay, so here's the issue that you have with this Maryland story. There's
Uh-huh.
so many players in it, and there's people that after Maryland's death got on the bandwagon. And one of them is Robert Slater. Robert Slater, I always say, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So this is the good side of Robert Slater. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have the 1982 DA report, because he was
Right.
the one that rounded up and said, we have to investigate the Marilyn Monroe story. So because
Uh-huh.
of him, that happened. But I'll give you an example of rumor. He went on national television. He wrote a book about it, literally said that he was married to Marilyn Monroe.
Okay.
The problem with that is that back in those days, when you make a statement back in the 60s and 70s like that, there was no internet. There was
Right.
no proof. You couldn't really to find that out for sure. Well, then when you've got huge detail-oriented Maryland experts. So
Mm-hmm.
you start looking at where Maryland was, where he says that, oh my gosh, he married her and he married her down in Mexico and then it was annulled and all this stuff. You know, she wasn't even in Mexico that day. So that's
Right.
one thing. Number two is that the picture that he has of the two of them is a press picture from the set of Niagara.
Right.
The other thing that is that for somebody you would marry, you think that you would have them in your address book.
Wasn't there.
Nobody close to Marilyn even knew of him.
Right.
So when you sit there and you say, I knew her and she was, you know, my wife and we went and got married, that's the kind of stuff you're
Right.
looking at. You know, you're looking at people that have photoshopped, not just him, but other people, famous people who have photoshopped themselves into a Marilyn picture and said that they were them, and
Uh-huh.
they were never there. It's not them. They, you know, they're making up these stories from, you know, 60
Right.
years ago, and they realize that, you know, these Maryland experts, I mean, I seriously, I don't even know how they find what they do, but when they do, I mean, they go back to newspaper articles, they go back to her diary, they go back to her contacts. I mean, it's amazing. You know that the Andy Warhol Marilyn Monroe is going up for auction. The starting bid is $200 million. That's
Not
what we're talking
bad. Not bad. I think it's a little low.
But when you think about $200 million, you think about her Brentwood house, you think about her Happy Birthday, Mr. President, you know, dress that she wore, going for millions and millions of dollars. I
Right.
mean, it's amazing. It's sad and amazing that this woman who didn't get to really see the wealth and so many other people are making so much more money from it. But she
Right.
left her estate to Sigmund Freud's, I think it was his daughter in the UK,
Uh-huh.
and you know, to her acting a coach, and to make sure that her mother, who did not actually raise her or even treat
Right.
her all that well, was taken care of.
Mhm.
So you know, she did what she thought was best, and I just, you know, she's been exploited a lot, and our goal with this project is to really bring the truth, a more well-rounded truth, without all the hoopla. I think the truth is more fascinating than the rumors
Oh,
anyway.
I think it is too. Like getting back, and this is a note from my audience. Keep your planner, because that way you can prove, you know, your grandchildren can prove, you didn't marry my great grandmother. She had dinner that day at this place. She wasn't there, you know. And you brought up her diary. How was she a very detailed diarist? Would she had been?
She scribbled. She was very creative, you know. So she had diaries and she had a lot of poems that she would write, but it wasn't in a neat fashion, in a very orderly way. I mean, some of the things, if anybody wants to see her writings, Fragments is a great book that was compiled of all her poems. And what they did is they put the poem in where you could be legible and read it, and then you see her cursive writing, and it's, sometimes it was doodles and, scratched out, and but she wrote a lot, she read a lot, she certainly was would write about her experiences and stuff too. And it was when you really look at her writing and then you see what's going to be in the tabloids, you kind of roll your eyes and laugh and go, okay, that sounds like a 14-year-old teenager and something that she would never say.
Exactly. And that's not her voice.
No, not at all. Not at all. She would be much more like, if she was on the call right now, she'd probably be asking about you and how are you doing. And she underestimated her, she knew how to turn on Marilyn Monroe. Don't get me wrong. I mean, she knew how to do it. But if she was in her human being aspect, not character, she would be more apt to be more quiet. She'd be more apt to be more shy. She'd be more apt to talk about you and how you're doing and making sure that you're okay.
Who's the Marilyn of today?
Who's the Marilyn of today?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that you said it a little bit. It was more like 20 years ago with Britney Spears. I mean, she was even called the Marilyn Monroe of today, and she has some of the same similarities. So many people have tried to imitate her. I actually don't think there is a Marilyn of today. I think there is there's a lot of wannabes. I mean, look at how many people have impersonated her. Even Madonna. Madonna took Marilyn and took it and presented Madonna as, a Marilyn Monroe type figure. But I think it's hard to replicate her because you could imitate the character of Marilyn Monroe, but the essence of her is hard. I would say, it's really interesting because she's not as famous yet, but our star, Erin Gavin, sometimes it's amazing to watch her because the essence of who she is, that sweetness, that kind of childlike quality, I think that's a really hard quality to replicate. So I haven't seen that, unless you can think of anybody. Can you think of somebody that would represent that childlike quality? There's certainly that voluptuous kind of, get on stage and let it rock, but not necessarily that childlike quality. I haven't seen
that childlike quality, not that trauma that we're seeing.
Yeah.
I think there's probably a few YouTubers that are coming up to Deborah's and Debris sisters. I think they'll be very careful. They're going to be falling into that Marilyn trap.
Yeah, and you got a lot of people that really love her as actors and actresses, today. I mean, Kylie Jenner loves her. Mariah Carey has her white piano that we also feature in the podcast as well. And she married. She named her daughter Monroe. So, you got a lot of people that are certainly fans of Marilyn for sure.
Right. And, I'm sorry, she's a drag staple. Being a retired drag queen, it's like, you better have a Marilyn within your cast.
Yes.
To pull it off. May not look like her, that's fine. Get the blonde wig, the white dress on, and at least the red lipstick.
There you go. Right. There's a lot of impersonators, and then there's the actresses that are playing Marilyn as well. So I think that, Marilyn would be in awe if she were to look at 60 years later and look at her legacy and look at how many people are still talking about her and how much you're going to see her much more in the news as it gets closer to her anniversary of her death and her birthday coming up on June 1st.
Yeah. And what's striking is, it didn't hit me until you said it, but she would have been the same age as Betty White.
Yeah, so in that same category. So, Betty White, probably. I know Jane Fonda, even though she's a little younger, she was in acting class with Marilyn. One of the directors that I certainly have talked to over the years, who did On Golden Pond and was an actor and a famous director in the Rose and some of these really big productions. He was in acting class with her. But, the challenge with it is as the years go on, it's harder and harder to find people that are still alive in that era,
And can give you those one-to-one stories of like, she used to do X, Y, and Z in class, and it's nowhere in documents, because you don't record when someone's in acting school that they're popping gum, or has this little tick about this or a tick about that, because who
Well,
cares?
one of the things that it was told over and over again, she would sit very quietly and very shy in the class and be very reserved. So she wasn't Marilyn Monroe in the class. She was much more, but when she'd get on stage, she certainly would be a good actress and stuff. And she wasn't one that tried to take all the attention.
Right. Because it's not her spotlight at that time.
Yeah, but she would, sometimes she would go around and walk around in New York, and she'd be in this, scarf and glasses. Nobody would recognize her. And the way that she walked was kind of like this.
Uh-huh.
And then she would tell people like, hey, I'm going to turn it on. She'd take off the thing and just start the walk. And everybody would be like, I mean, she'd have a big crowd around her.
Exactly.
It wasn't just her look. It was also the way she carried herself.
Right, because it was everything. It's the walk, it's the talk, it's the head movements, it's the shake. Everything was pre-planned, pre-thought out, character designed.
Yes.
My co-host, says, when I'm about 20 minutes out from an event, he says a switch flips and Aeson comes on. And it's like all business all the time, get in, get done, do the thing. And, when we first started dating, he was very much like, and I'm like, 20 minutes, watch it.
Yeah. So, all of us have a story, and this is a beautiful story about Marilyn, and we're hopefully going to, tell it without all the sensationalism, because I think, the one thing I'd like to see with her legacy is her story been told right, not just trying to get to the story that says, oh, the Kennedys killed her, the mob killed her, or somebody else killed her. It's like, let's just get to the truth.
Yeah, can we get to the truth? Can we figure out, if there was water in the pitcher or if there was roses in the pitcher, please?
Well, the one thing I can tell you for sure, one of the things that we have one more thing I could tell you with about 98% certainty. There's one other thing that we're going to check, and this is really speaks to a lot of the documentaries that are out there. So there's a lot of rumor out there that Marilyn had a suppository, or she was given an injection, and that the housekeeper at the time was washing the sheets in the middle of the night. Okay. Mm-hmm. I just thought, of course, that was true, because it seemed like it was true the way that was told. Mm-hmm. Come to find out, Marilyn actually didn't have a washer and dryer in her house.
Right, because she was in a bungalow.
So the thing is that she sent her laundry out to get washed. So when you think about that, and it's been told over and over and over again for the last 20 or 30 years in almost every documentary, and that's actually just a rumor.
Right.
So.
Very much so. All right. So one more question for you, then I'll let you go.
Okay.
How do we prevent this from repeating itself? What changes have to be made?
That's a really not easy question to answer, and it's not a simple question. I think you have to be willing to suspend whatever you think your belief system is. And this isn't just the Marilyn story. This is what we're being told in the media everywhere. And I think the challenge that we all have is that we're inundated with information. And so you might have to take some extra time to even question before you go, oh, okay, because somebody credible or my network is giving me this show and telling me this, it may or may not be true. And I think that the lesson is to question where is the source, and is this really true? It may or may not be. And then the bigger issue around mental health and addiction is that we're going to have to do something different here. The system itself isn't working, and we have got to start unlayering, like I'm doing the Marilyn story, and going, where's the gap? There is certainly, and it's not a small gap, it's a big gap, because we have so many resources, and yet something's not being connected. And what is that? And are there going to be people and for all of us to wake up to the responsibility we have for our own mental health, our physical health, and everything else that we have. And it's a big challenge. Yeah.
De-shaming the mental health side of things.
Very much so. And that's one of the things that I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think that if you were to look at Marilyn's story and you look at the mental health issues that she had, and the trauma that she had as a child, you think about it, 11 to 12 different orphanages and foster homes. Okay. Her mother wasn't able to take care of her with mental health and institutionalized. Her dad never ever acknowledged her, even as an adult, as Marilyn Monroe, never had anything to do with her and would not acknowledge her as her father. She was physically and sexually abused. And yet, she's lived more in 36 years than some people will live until they're 96.
Right.
So, really and truly, even though she lived short 36 years, look what she achieved in those 36 years. So, if you could do it, if she could do it, look what you could do if you really did reduce that stigma about mental health and addiction, for that matter, and started opening up that dialogue and allowing everybody to get health. Because what I found too, you made a good point about stigma, is I can say to you, oh, you know what, I'm diabetic, but out in the open or going to an employer, I'm not going to say, oh, by the way, I'm bipolar. People go, oh, what does that mean? You know what I mean? And because they don't understand it, and it is treatable.
Well, even with the diabetic, they're like, oh, really? That means you're going to be sick a lot, blah, blah, blah. That's inflective. That's why they can't ask health questions at interviews, because it's very inflective. But the stigma, even in current, areas, is ridiculous. Oh, you're bipolar. Okay, that's cute. So during, and I will encourage you, all right, during your mania times, we're going to maximize that. I need 15 videos. I need 20 blogs, so that when you're at the bottom of your railroad, you can coast. We got enough content for you. You can coast. You've done enough work. And using that to balance that out. But it's adapting, it's learning to, it's finding cycles, finding rhythms.
And I also think treating people a little more kinder. It doesn't matter whether you have bipolar, you've got a diabetic. We all have issues. We come into this life to learn certain things. And here's the thing: if we can stop labeling people and judging people, because the reality is we all have stuff. And if we had a little bit more tolerance, man, the world today, starting now, would be a lot better.
Well, I think if we, kick off the shackles of the Victorian era, when all this became an issue, and started like, okay, yeah, you get a medical condition. Yeah, that's a mental health, but it's still medical. Let's figure out how to treat it like anything else instead of housing.
Yeah. It's a big problem. It's not going to be solved overnight, but I think if we could start waking up to the fact and have that awareness that it isn't about, oh, well, we've got mental health issues, but you know what? We're pretty resourceful when we want to be. So I hope this story and her legacy of her life will shed some light and give people hope. Just because she only lived to 36 years doesn't mean that you only are to live to 36 years. It's not a death sentence. There's plenty of resources out there.
There is, and there's a lot of ability to reach out, to connect, to use the resources we have, and to start building networks about them.
Yeah.
So where do they listen to your podcast at? Where are we going to be seeing the docuseries at?
So behindtheicon.com is where it's on all major platforms, but it's Marilyn Behind the Icon is the name of the show. But you can go to behindtheicon.com, and you can go to behindtheicon.com to also learn about the TV docuseries. And we're going to be doing a special investigation series starting June 1st, Marilyn's birthday. So all the way through August 5th. So
wonderful. All right, darling. Will you come back when you have more projects? Because we like this one.
All right. Yay. Thanks for having me.
Bye, darlings.
Bye.
All right. Hi, Joe. Ooh, where's your sound, darling? You do not have sound. I can hear you in the back house. I can't hear you in the front house. And we're looking up at you again. It gets on my nerves when he gets a bar stool. I'm telling you.
Hey, you know what? All right.
You're echoing.
Well, at least you can hear me.
True.
Like I'm doing what I can.
I know. Hello, everybody. Yes, I will be taking questions if you have them.
All right. Let's see if that's any better. Any better at all?
Much. You're getting back to being human.
All right. Cool deal. So yeah. Hi.
Hi, Miss Brenda. Hello, Shannon. How are you?
Sorry if you guys heard the horrible sounds of our dishwasher We're firing them. We are.
No, we're not.
No, so sorry. Like, we had dinner and I was like determined to get dishes done because I was like, he's got an author. I can do dishes real quick. I swear to God, the tongs flew out of my hands and like pirouetted through the air and then decided to hit everything in the sink. I was just like, quietly do the dishes. This is what I thought. Quietly do the dishes. All right, great.
Yes, we're in mystic colors tonight.
We are.
Yeah.
The sad part was I wasn't even paying attention to what you were wearing.
Okay.
Like, I didn't realize it till I was sitting in the back house. And I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Excuse
Hello,
me.
Mika darling. How are you?
Oh, goodness. All right, we're going to remount the camera after this show. That's what I
Yes,
heard.
this will be the last show that he's doing this. I'm going
Oh,
to beg him to put it
sorry.
on the top of his monitor like every other natural human.
I mean, I can. Like, do you want to like sit here and just like, I don't know, tap dance for a couple of minutes?
Well, I can tap dance or we can take a break.
No, don't take a break. It's not.
All right, I'll tap dance while we play with Joe's camera. Someone asked me a question. I'll tap dance, please. I'll talk to you guys all over. My Patreon's got blasted with videos, but they'll know I'll talk to them. We done the April setup in my planner, all 3 of them. And then YouTube will be getting 1 or 2 of those videos the middle of this week. We'll see. I've got to go through and see if I need to censor out anything. Other than that, that'll be up. And of course, our news is the standard news as it is. It's all aggravatingly aggravated, but we'll take a look and see what tickles my interest. Of course, Russia's 3-day war is now turned into 35 days, and I think we're going to go to at least 90. So the White House is missing 7 hours of phone records for Mr. Trump on January the 6th. I wonder where those records could be. Has anyone checked the basement of Mar-a-Lago? Like, he tends to leave crap in Mar-a-Lago. Maybe we should go check the gators there. But 7 hours and 35 minutes, that's a long period of time. I think someone needs to call Ma Bell and see if she's got a file. $11 pages of records.
All right, 11 pages of records? What?
Yeah.
All right, how's everyone now? Is everyone good now?
Good. Yeah, much better.
Alrighty.
Yeah, now we tilt you down a little.
Oh, no, we're not.
Okay.
All right, I'll try. Like, I can guarantee I'm not going to lose this.
There you go. Much better. Finally, the real Joe. There we are.
Oh, my goodness. The things I do for you people. Oh, but no, anyway, hi.
Oh,
So, okay,
right.
not as bad as I thought it would be. Not as bad as
No, it's actually very nice.
Yeah. Well, see, because what's happening is right now it's actually straddling 2 monitors.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, the cat is going to destroy this camera. I see where
No, it won't. It'll be perfectly fine. Mine sits on the back of mine all the time, and a dog knocks my desk around. All right, so I'm going to talk to Facebook user that needs the Happy Planner budget sheets. What size Happy Planner do you have?
Yes. Oh, yes, and having to keep... Oh, that is a nightmare. It is. So, yeah.
All right, and Mika's got a question, and Kathy's got a question. So let's go with Kathy first.
All right, so Kathy, 72862. When does Triz talk to me? Plus, when are my ex and I going to Texas? Thank you so much for helping me.
Not a problem. All right, so we're looking at about 6 weeks for Tess to talk to you. As far as the trip to Texas, I'm thinking May. It's whenever stuff starts blooming down there.
Oh no, it's Texas. Does that ever happen?
Yes, they have a
Okay.
full season down there.
Wow. Oh, we've turned Mika on to virtual reality games.
Yes.
Oh.
Well, Mika, you know my username there is the same as my name here, spelled exactly the same. Just be sure to IM me and tell me it's you.
Yes.
Yes, because I might be at a dance somewhere or, at the beach and, need to get dressed.
Well, that's an IM though. It's not like she instantly gets to see you.
Well, transport over type thing.
Okay, fair.
Fair. Okay.
All right, fair. All right, and then we have Mika. And I haven't seen that sizing yet. 22082. I want to get a dog, but I don't know if I should or when I should. Can you let me know?
Sure. Oh, I'm thinking that you will find a dog. I don't think you have to go get them. It will be a he. And looking at it, I think that it will probably come in June.
All right, and that is a classic happy planner.
That is a classic happy planner. Awesome. And is this Miss Shannon? I do believe it is. Miss Shannon, I am Joe. He has travel plans to Charleston. Do some coordination there.
Hey.
I have a footstool full of stuff that needs to go.
Oh, no. He does.
I do. I've gone, you guys have seen me. I have moved into my own domain of plannering. And I have some great budget sheets, which I will be putting up. If you do full letter, those will go up. Yep, Shannon, you need to message Joe for travel coordination and pickup.
Awesome. Oh, actually, what happened, Shannon, is right now you're showing up as Facebook user.
Yep.
So we see nothing. We don't get a Facebook picture. We don't get a Facebook name. You have to go to that StreamYard link that we have to drop out. We need to drop that out more often.
Oh, that's cute. Now, where's the other one? And I think it's going to be a small one, Mika. It's not going to be, he's not going to be a huge doggy. Like, you ain't getting a St. Bernard or a Vlad.
And poor Mika's getting tag teamed right now.
Yeah.
Because she had also asked me a question directly on Facebook earlier. And so I was taking the lovely moment to be like, tippity tap.
All right, so we were talking about White House losing phone records of 7 hours and 27 minutes.
Interestingly, on January 6th, I heard.
Yes. I think they're in Mar-a-Lago.
Strange how that happens. Oh, they may be.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And finally, Biden signed a federal crime lynching law. Really? It has taken you over 60 years to sign this law? What the hell? It's bad that the Democrat has to go and clean something up that's more than freaking 60 years old.
Basically, yeah. The speed our government works at.
Mm-hmm.
But
take this one on because this one's funny. To me.
Which one am I taking on?
I'm sending it to you now.
Okay. Top U.S. general in Europe says there could be an intelligence gap in the U.S. that caused U.S. to overestimate Russia's capabilities. Oh, seriously?
Seriously.
All right. The top U.S. general in Europe said Tuesday there could be a gap in U.S. intelligence gathering that caused the U.S. to overestimate Russia's capability and underestimate Ukraine's defensive abilities before Russia attacked Ukraine. When Russia launched its invasion of Ukraine last month, U.S. intelligence assessed that the country-wide assault could lead to Kiev falling into Russian hands within days. But Russia's military has been bogged down around the capital as the war has entered its second month, beleaguered by sustainability and logistics problems, along with an unexpected stiff resistance from Ukrainian fighters.
Mm-hmm.
So General Todd Walters was asked by Senator Roger Wicker, a Mississippi Republican, if there was an intelligence gap that caused the U.S. to overestimate. There could be, Walters responded, as we've always done in the past. When this crisis is over with, we will accomplish a comprehensive after-action review in all domains and in all departments and find out where our weak areas were and make sure we can find ways to improve, and this could be one of those areas.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? Underestimating Russia is probably the worst thing you could ever do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think overestimating Russia, probably a good life plan.
Mm-hmm.
Like not a thing you want to just like, no, we're just gonna play with this and no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So but oh goodness. Sorry, I'm getting everyone answers. Like, hey Ashley.
Hello, Ashley, darling. All right, so Justice vetoed looks to be a loan program.
Oh, I was seeing a little bit about that. I kind of decided to jump that one personally. So West Virginia Governor Jim Justice announced Tuesday that he has vetoed Senate Bill 729, which was intended to create a self-sustaining loan fund with the West Virginia Economic Development Authority. This veto will call for a special session in April. According to the governor's statement, the bill had several technical errors that would have made it nearly impossible to use the money appropriated to the EDA consistent with the intent of the bill. So yeah, calling a special session. Yeah.
So it's more government money. Cute, good one, Justice.
Well, here's the thing though: is if it does have technical issues, like legit technical issues, it's not a bad thing,
right?
Like he's not currently not rejecting it because of what it is. He's just rejecting it because it's like, no. Like, see, you don't want to do that way.
Right.
Is more so how it sounds.
It's more so it didn't line his pockets enough.
Oh, yeah. Well, there is that possibility. So, yeah. All right. I think I got everyone caught up. Cool.
Awesome. We attended Prince Philip's memorial service at Westminster Abbey today.
Oh?
Yeah. Her honored son, the Duke of York, at her first public appearance since settling a civil sexual suit in Westminster Abbey. Prince Philip, of course, died at age 99, was described as a remarkable man committed to down-to-earth causes. The service was organized as a COVID rule meant for his funeral, held almost a year ago, had only 30 people in presence. Representatives of his charities, including the Duke of Edward's Award, attended Tuesday's service, which held over 1,800 people in attendance. This is the first major event this year attended by the 95-year-old monarch who traveled by car from Westminster Castle to with Prince Andrew. There have been doubts that she would attend, and she's only made the final decision hours before the service. The Queen has had mobility problems and has had to pull out of Commonwealth services earlier this month as she tested positive in February for COVID. Special measures were put into place for her comfort, including keeping the length of the service to 45 minutes. Exactly, 45 minutes. Amid the, you know, I think it's interesting. And she's now walking with beautiful canes. I think it's a joy to see her, one of the oldest reigning monarchs in the world, doing her wifely duties and serving at least one great service for Prince Philip. Sorry, there's a lot of the Queen and Prince Philip, two other children, Prince Charles and Princess Anne, were sitting in the same row as her. Prince William and his wife were in the row directly behind, along the two Queen's great grandchildren, Prince George and Princess Catalin. That's not right. Anyway, the princess. The Queen's two other sons, Prince Andrew and Prince Edward, also on the front row seats across the aisle from the Queen. Kind of like, you boys, get over there. You guys are in trouble to begin with.
Yeah. Like, it's not been a...
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But no, it is wonderful that they have been able to have a service and with that much of a turnout.
Right.
You know, and also while accommodating the Queen and the fact that, you know, I mean, primarily, that's a large part of who this is for.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like, being able to ensure that she gets to take part in that at, you know, a pace she can handle.
Right. I mean, because here's the thing. Your grandmother was 95.
Oh, 97.
I know, but think back when she was 95.
Mm-hmm.
45 minutes, I think she'd been done with anything.
Well, I wish we could have kept her to that. Like, that would have been nice.
Uh-huh.
I know one doctor's office in particular was notoriously bad they were the only provider of that service in, you know, a pretty good distance.
Mm-hmm.
So we did have to, like, and they were horrific, that doctor's office. As in, you have an 8 a.m. appointment, you might be seen by 5, we hope.
Right.
So we had a number of days in which we got there at 8 and we left there at 5. It's a lot.
Right.
It's a lot of a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's one of the things about getting older that people don't realize is that, no, there comes a point in your seniority,
right,
in which just physically being places is a lot of effort.
Right.
Like, and it's a lot of strain on you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if you're sitting there, even if you're, you know, whatever, you know, interested in everything else, just being there that long is problematic.
It is. And, you know, at 95, 45 minutes, and this is for a service I don't think he would have wanted. I mean, because he made some interesting funeral choices if left to his own devices. He was wanting a natural burial. He was wanting a wool casket. He was wanting a lot of things that isn't going to be allowed because of who he married.
Yeah. Which it does bring into a lot of questions, like, how do you honor those wishes?
Yeah.
In that scenario, and, like, did he make peace with it, or was it one of those things he knew from the beginning, kind of, that, like, I'm gonna say what I want and then I'm gonna get whatever I get?
Yeah. Well, you know, it's very interesting that, you know, the Queen's funeral is planned down to the minute by now.
Oh, yeah. Something tells me it's going to be way more than 45 minutes.
Well, it's actually a 9-day event.
Mm-hmm.
They meet every 6 months to update the plan. Operation London Bridge Down, because they've got multiple things going on. First, we have the Queen's funeral and burial. Then we have, on the other side of that, You flip the side of that, you also have the crowning of King Charles or King Henry, one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
It's not exactly clear at the moment to the public which will be taking the throne.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there's the big debate on if she'll outlive her son, who hasn't
Mm-hmm.
been in good health either for quite some time.
True.
Yeah.
Very, very true. Yeah, well, and then you have there's been a lot of upset. I mean, yay, she's added the ability of her granddaughter. Oh, actually, she's added a lot of things.
Yeah.
In the last few decade or so.
Yeah.
Like she's done a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And of course before that, but she's done a lot
Mm-hmm.
on changing and revamping and modernizing the idea of what the monarchy is. So I know that's I'm sure created changes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then there's the ever evolving relationship and status of different potential monarchs.
Right.
Like that hierarchy seems to jockey a lot more than one would think.
Exactly. It's kind of like who's on my shit list this week.
Well, I don't think it's quite that bad, but yeah. almost.
Yeah, I write mine in friction pen. I might want to recommend the Queen do that. I know she's very famous for using her number 2 pencil, but you'll love a friction pen much easier because it's funner to erase that name out and write a new one on top of the shit list.
Well, there is that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we have an Are You the Asshole for tonight, and that'll be our last segment for tonight, and then we'll cover these other ones at the end of the week.
Awesome. So yeah, this actually comes from Ask Gay Bros, but
Yeah.
it's my boyfriend is an extremely picky eater and I'm getting sick of it. Am I being an asshole? So basically, my 31 boyfriend, 32, will only eat waffles, chicken tenders, fries with ranch, chicken Alfredo only from Olive Garden, pepperoni pizza, plain cheeseburgers, tacos with only meat, very, very, very well done steak, and grilled cheese. He only drinks Dr. Pepper, raspberry iced tea, and Minute Maid lemonade. One time we went out to a place that only had freshly squeezed lemonade. We both ordered it, and he refused to drink it without adding extra sugar. He is repulsed by most veggies and fruits, meat that isn't burnt to a crisp, drinks that aren't sweet, and anything seasoned with stuff that isn't salt and pepper. At first, I didn't think much of it because we would only go out to eat at very casual places. His favorite restaurant is Denny's and Olive Garden. We live in Los Angeles and I miss my favorite restaurants. I'm not going to lie, I turned down invitations to go out to eat with my friends because I'm embarrassed that we'll go to a nice place and he'll ask the waiter for chicken tenders with fries and raspberry iced tea. I always feel torn because I don't want to go out without him. I don't know what to do. I feel like we always have to eat at places like Denny's because he would rather starve than eat a piece of sushi. It's getting to the point where it's hard to be romantic because he thinks all wine is disgusting except for blackberry Stella Rose. He won't even try new foods. My birthday is coming up and my friends are planning a dinner party at a really nice place. Chicken tenders will not be on the menu. And I'm debating on not including him. I love him, but this is getting frustrating. I'm worried this will never change. Here's the thing. I don't necessarily, based on the phrasing, I have to very carefully say, I don't think you're the asshole.
Right.
I understand your frustration.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're getting ready to border into asshole territory of trying to change this without understanding what this is.
Mm-hmm.
And until you understand what this is, and I have a sneaking suspicion
Mhm.
that it's more than just being picky.
Well, I think it's more than just being picky.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say this. He doesn't have to be attached at the damn hip to his boyfriend.
No, like there's a lot of like the original poster has kind of built like the screwed pooch model
Right.
of like, well, I don't want to go out without him, but I don't want to include him, and I'm feeling, walled off and trapped because this thing that I want them to be able to do, they can't.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, you created your own screwed pooch.
Uh-huh.
You've walled this in perfectly so that you're the victim.
Right.
Like, you can't ever get what you want because you're not leaving room to get what you want without involving him.
Right. And see, here's the point of this.
Mm-hmm.
He is the asshole for a point. The
Okay.
asshole point is feeling like he has to take his boyfriend with him. There are events you go to and I don't go to. There are events we go to and the invisible assistant doesn't go to. There's events now that the invisible assistant goes to and we don't go to.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
You don't need to
now,
be attached at the hip.
Right. Yeah, you don't have to be attached at the hip. But I do understand there can be some frustration there when it's like, if you want to include him in eating out,
Mm-hmm.
you do kind of have that fixed, like, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And we've been there.
We've been there. And we've made substitutions, allowances.
Mm-hmm.
Because the invisible assistant has a specific diet. This is one reason I commented on this one. And chose this one is because we deal with this. I'm diabetic. If they want to go to Dairy Queen, that's cute.
Yeah.
I will not be doing Dairy Queen.
Well, you can. You're just going to enjoy their hot dogs.
Yes.
It's sort of like we order pizza, you get wings.
Yes.
Like, yay for pizza places now have wings. That's helped.
Yes, and I've never been to a fancy restaurant that doesn't have chicken nuggets.
Well, at least on the kids menu. At least on the kids menu.
Yeah. Or appetizing.
But there's, you know what I mean? There's also sometimes you just have to accept that maybe he's just going to order water. Or, something.
Yeah.
Really flippin' sweet. Like Dr. Pepper, whatever. And, maybe he'll enjoy a breadstick.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as this isn't an inherent issue for him,
mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Like, if you stop on the way, you get him his chicken nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
Like, plan it out, literally. Like, we're gonna drive through, and get you your chicken nuggets, and you can pre-eat.
Right.
We're gonna go to this restaurant. Have a breadstick or don't.
Right.
It's fine. And just, and also be prepared. Yeah, you're gonna have to tell people.
Right.
Like, and that's where I'm kind of like, you might also want to get into the what is this?
Right.
Because again, sneaking suspicion. Because there's some key words here.
Right.
And there is an actual, it's not just picky eating.
Right.
That is an actual medical condition.
Right.
And it's not he's trying to be an ass or he's uncultured swine or what, like, I've heard all kinds of crap. And so have most people with this. Like, there's a lot of insults and a lot of teasing and a lot of cajoling and trying to force people, and no.
Right.
Not if that's the situation. Because the reality is there's not a lot of control over this.
Right.
You just have to accept this is the menu.
Right.
And sometimes he'll be at a restaurant and won't eat.
Exactly.
And that's okay, because you're going to take care of that beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to go through a really annoying period in which you have to explain this to people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm going to tell you now, it's not annoying because of the issue.
Uh-huh.
It's annoying because you're going to keep answering the same questions.
Yes.
Have you tried? No, please don't.
Please don't.
Have you done? Would you try? No.
No, leave it alone.
Leave it alone. This isn't a fix someone.
Right.
You don't fix someone.
Right. And then
you encourage.
Yeah, but you make the choice
Yeah.
whether he needs to be there or not. It's your friends and you celebrating your birthday with your friends. You may obviously mean that they're your friends, not his friends.
Mm-hmm.
You can go have a birthday party at Denny's with his friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
But stop trying to fix it. Or stop thinking it's fixable or that it's exactly a him problem. Like you're like, the thing that gets me on this one, and it always will, is that like you're talking about him like he's broken, not like he just has a very limited menu.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm sorry, you have a very, it sounds like, adventurous menu.
Right.
Like, you're welcome to add new things to that all the time.
Right.
And go new places and try new things. And for whatever reason, again, I think I know what this is, they can't.
Right. And that's okay.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. The other thing here, and the other thought was, and thinking as in the boyfriend's position, because there's only been one restaurant that we've ever gone to, and it was just horrible.
Aww. Are you talking about the tapas place?
Possibly. The place
where everyone was getting stuff and sharing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Horrible.
I had a glorious time. Like, and it's one of those things. It's like you had the worst meal of your life.
Oh no, that's not the worst meal of my life, but that was close to the worst experience of my life because the service was bad, the food was terrible.
Like, nothing struck you happily.
No.
Like, and I'm going, okay, well, it was really different, and there were some things I really liked, and I was good to go back.
Yeah.
And you couldn't get out of there fast enough.
No, I couldn't. No.
And I understand that. And it's okay.
Yeah, but it really exposed some of my food things. Mm-hmm. I don't like people touching my plates.
No. Like, you were not at all cool. Like, I would be afraid to take you for fondue at this point. That's where
me and you doing fondue is cool.
Uh-huh.
Me and 17 other people doing fondue? I don't think so.
Yeah, no. See, and that's what I learned that night, is that no. He does not do... Especially, like, I think you would have been okay, or more okay. Let me put it that way. You would have been more okay if you had been, like, related to the people at the table.
Right.
Like, I don't think you would have liked it all that much, but you would have been okay with it.
Right. And if there were serving spoons.
Yes. Like, yeah. It was not, like, there wasn't a clear descriptor made as to how this place worked. And so we were all kind of like, okay.
Yeah. And it was like,
yeah.
No.
And I was a little more like, all right, let's go. Like, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And you were just like, your brain went, nope.
Yep.
Nope, I'm out. Like, nope. Like, I don't. Well, because, like, you were having multiple issues. One was, it was a very confusing menu.
Yeah.
And it was a fusion kind of restaurant that had stuff from all over the world.
Right.
And, like, it was unclear, like, and the prices were insane.
Yeah.
Unless you realize what you're doing, which I didn't even. I was like, oh my God, these prices are insane. I was with you on that.
Right.
But then once you figured out, like, okay, we're each basically ordering one or two things, and then it's just like a giant share.
Right.
And the quantities were decent for the pricing.
Mm,
Again, if you understood what you were doing.
no. Quantities
Like,
were good. I've had more food at a French restaurant.
fair, well, but that's because there were so many of us sharing.
Again, I've had more food at a French restaurant served on a serving platter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't mind. There's a lovely Amish restaurant up in up in Ohio, and then there's also one in New Hampshire because they have like two of them.
Mm-hmm.
That is wonderful, and you sit down at a table, and everything is brought out in serving containers with
Mm-hmm.
serving spoons,
Mm-hmm.
and it is served up with everybody at the table. You order one meal, i.e., like a meatloaf dinner or a fresh, and that would have been cool. But there's serving utensils added.
Yes.
That was my people and their nasty hands in my food.
Yes. And their forks that they've already, eaten off of, and then trying to scrape stuff, and like, oh, please stop.
Like,
Yeah,
I don't
you were-
understand how the food department approved this place.
Yeah. Well, and like this restaurant went horribly for you when you were trying to order coffee. And like it was like that was the beginning of the nightmare. Like a simple coffee order was too much for them. Because they did not have a simple coffee item. Like it was a whole
Right.
like coffee was a whole process.
Yes, I would like Turkish coffee with heavy cream. They could never get the idea that I wanted cream to go in my Turkish coffee.
Yeah. So, but no, I mean, again,
But still, I didn't throw a fit. We went through that. We had an enjoyable time with our friends there. And then we left and went to McDonald's where I got real food.
Yes. Yes, he did. But no, like you hated that place so much. And I was sitting there going, well, that was a really different experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm kind of back and forth. Like, I would do it again.
With you, yes, I'll do it again. And we will go in and we will order what we want and we will sit down and we'll have an enjoyable table. And if I have to, I'll bring my own damn serving utensils. I have a big purse.
Oh my god. But no, it was I was cool with it.
Mm-hmm.
It was very different though, and no one really explained it because there were veterans.
Yeah.
In terms of they've been here before, they have done this, they know what they're getting themselves into.
Mm-hmm.
They were the ones that recommended the restaurant, but they didn't really explain it.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's one of those places like, no, you need some warning. Right. It's kind of like the Brazilian steakhouse we went to.
Again, with serving utensils.
Well, okay, but will you get over the serving utensils? My God.
No.
But no. So the Brazilian steakhouse, though, we walked into that thinking it was a Mexican restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
That's how bad we screwed this up from the beginning. Only to realize that, like, okay, that's not what this is. And we almost, like, we got seated, started looking at the menu, realized that this is not a Mexican restaurant.
Uh-huh.
And there was a brief conversation of, do we leave now? Like, we have made a mistake.
Yeah, but I love that place. We'll go back to that place when we take my day to Charleston, because it's a fun experience. The food is it's buffet delivered to you.
Well, and they actually have a salad bar. That is a buffet, and then they actually circulate the room with different like meats and like pineapple and it's amazing. Right. And it really is. It was amazing.
It was a delicious restaurant, handled very cleanly. Like the server serves the food to you, cuts it off. Your utensils don't touch the server's utensils. It's very enjoyable. I love that experience.
Oh yeah, you were having a blast because we had a moment though where it was like, do we leave? And then it was like, no, I think we're gonna see this through.
Uh-huh.
Like, because I think that was about the point that the steak walked past you,
Mhm.
and you were like, I'm in.
Well, that's because he comes over and he slices off the steak at the section that you want, the thinness that you want, places it on your plate, and then the next, as the shrimp comes by, different solid serving techniques. Now, if I had gone in there and it was just very nasty, I'm out of there.
Well, yeah. But more importantly, lessons to be learned. If you need to keep Aeson somewhere, please walk past with steak and shrimp.
Yeah.
You can just about keep him anywhere with steak and shrimp.
And proper serving utensils.
and serving utensils. Oh my God.
Like, I get serving utensils out for us.
He does. Like, yeah.
Yeah. It was like, I cooked with that. Use that serving utensil.
No, not just that, but like, even like we get Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one, immediately the forks in the bag are like verboten.
Yeah.
Like, we're not allowed to touch those.
No. We don't eat off plastic.
Yeah. And then, so immediately there's forks, and then he will go get, like, he won't even use those for, like, serving. Like, no, we have to go get utensils for the rice. We have to get utensils for this. We have to, like, there's a full accoutrement of utensils. Yes.
Yes.
I'm sitting here going, you would have been horrified at some college level, like, Chinese ordering that we did.
See, I was the one that had the serving utensils in my room. I also had the microwave and the slow cooker at the time. I was the one cooking in the dorm.
Well, I did, but like, if you knew how many meals went from like, I cooked it with this, I served it with this, like, because I didn't have that many utensils.
Only a dog
Like, I told
utensils.
Well, yeah, but still, even though, no, I literally, like, if we had more than 6 people, I started telling people, bring your own fork.
Uh-huh.
Like, and if we got beyond, like, 8, it was bring your own plate.
Uh-huh.
It's like, you're welcome to the food.
Uh-huh.
But you're going to have to bring your own stuff. Like, I've maxed out. This is everything I have.
Uh-huh. Now, I had a full kitchen in my dorm room.
See,
minus the oven.
We had the apartment size everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we had the 1 basin sink.
Uh-huh.
Like, big basin, but 1 basin sink.
But you immediately go and buy double sink pans fuller.
Oh, bless your heart. It wasn't that big.
They make small ones.
Yeah, well, at that point, it would have been pointless. Like, by the time we got there, it would have been pointless. Like, there was no point in having 2 bins for it. It was just easier. You dirty the dish, you wash the dish, you put the dish on the strainer. You dirty the dish, you wash the dish, you put the dish on the strainer. You don't build up. Like, no.
Yeah.
Bad life choices.
But no, we had a hot plate. I had a hot plate, the microwave, the slow cooker, not the dorm size refrigerator, the one above it.
Oh yeah. You're talking about like the little, like, you're not talking about the pint size, keep it under your executive desk, but you had like the one size
the break room refrigerator that fit underneath the counter.
Oh yeah.
That you can keep 2 days worth of food in.
Oh no. See, we had the bigger, like, we had an apartment sized refrigerator, but it was one of those that, like, it was a fridge and freezer distinct.
Mm-hmm.
But like the refrigerator, like the top of the entire refrigerator was at like eye level.
Yeah, ours was about my waist level.
Oh no. Like, there's one roommate I wouldn't have, like, we would not have even survived.
Yeah, you would have. He just would have ate better, and his mother would have had to make more trips down.
True. Yeah, I had one roommate who took over the freezer. Like
Mhm.
this turned into a conversation at one point because there were 4 of us sharing this suite. So 4 of us are supposed to be using this one unfortunate refrigerator. And this guy's mom, and I don't know how she afforded this kid, but she bought that boy steak and like loaded that fridge every 2 weeks.
Mhm.
Like she filled that freezer every 2 weeks for him.
Mhm.
And we finally had to look at him and be like, dude, we're not trying to be assholes about this,
Mhm.
but could y'all switch to once a week? Because I would just and my actual comment, like, because all 4 of us got together to have this conversation, my actual comment was, I just want enough space
Mhm.
to put a container of Ben and Jerry's, one, in that freezer. That's all I'm asking for. Nothing else. I just need enough space in the freezer
Mhm.
for like a pint of Ben and Jerry's.
Right.
I'm like, because I have Ben and Jerry's attacks
Right.
and I don't want to go out.
Right.
Like, I just want to have one waiting for me
Right.
just in case. I'm like, other than that, you can fill the fucker up. I don't care.
Right.
So yeah, it worked out. Like there was a whole realization moment. Like I don't think his mom thought it through.
Right.
Like it was, and nor had he.
Mhm.
That like, oh right, I'm taking up the whole freezer.
Right.
It's like, yeah, dude.
Yeah. And we need to use it too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's not big. Like
Right.
that is not a big, like when you're talking about being able to like it, like you can see literal on top of the freezer
Right.
for 4 adult humans,
Mhm.
all of you technically trying to live independently.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's not a lot of space.
Mm-mm.
Like,
But no, dude needs to realize that he needs to be independent. This is one of my biggest advices to people: is you're in a relationship with somebody.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean that you're attached to the hip.
right.
Okay, there are movies I can't stand. This boy will watch them. He'll watch them twice. I'll walk in and go, "Oh, what you watching?" Okay, off to the
He'll be back in an hour and a half.
yeah.
Like, nope, I'm done.
Yep, there are philosophy books that I listen to that drive him bonkers.
Mhm.
Mhm.
There are, well, there's also some people who's like, I have voice issues.
Uh-huh.
Like, and let me clarify that is some people's voice.
Mhm.
Like, I don't mind the content. I just can't stand them saying it.
Right.
And like, there have been a couple of people or a couple of channels on YouTube, especially you dearly love, and I'm like, okay, I need a break.
Yeah.
Like, I understand you enjoy them, but there is something about their voice that everything that they say sounds like a question. And I'm just sitting there like, oh my God, I can't take it.
Right.
Like, and I'm not even saying I dislike the channel. I just can't stand dude's voice.
Right.
Like, that's it. That's my whole problem.
Right.
So yeah, you do kind of mix it up and just like, okay, I'll find someone else.
Right. And it isn't that hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's if you can't work out dinner in a relationship, you guys got other problems.
Yeah. Which I can also understand. This can be a challenge if you're trying to do the like one meal thing.
Right.
And I
But,
think in this situation, you have to quickly realize that that's just not a thing.
well, I don't think that's a thing for households anymore.
It can be that a lot of people are doing separate meals already.
Yeah.
But if you are trying to do the one joint meal, sometimes you just have to accept that's not something you're going to be able to do.
No, we have
And
problems
that's okay.
because you, quite frankly, could have macaroni and cheese every day.
Not every day. Every other day. What? I like my macaroni and cheese.
Yes, you do. We buy 8 boxes a week.
No, we don't.
At minimum, I buy 2 boxes a week.
Well, yeah, but we don't always cook 2 boxes a week.
Debatable. Past 3 weeks we have.
No.
Yeah.
No. No, I mean, are you counting like the Tuscan chicken and the
No, I'm not counting the Tuscan chicken that I make sure
Okay.
to at least have pasta dishes in the menu for you.
Well, because I've pointed out before, like, as long as I'm getting my pasta fix, like, macaroni and cheese is my default go-to. Like, I just need pasta.
Uh-huh.
Like, it's my cry for help.
Uh-huh.
I can be more adult. And, like, I can have, chicken Alfredo. And that hits my, pasta thing.
Mhm.
Or I can be a little kid and I can have a box of Kraft. And I'm okay either way. I just gotta scratch that itch.
Uh-huh.
That's it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. These are adult conversations and adult decisions and adult communications. I'm like, I'm fixing me a salad. You've got macaroni and cheese.
Hey, sometimes I'm there for the salad.
Sometimes you're very there for the salad. Although I don't think you like my ham sandwich salad.
Your ham sandwich salad?
Mm-hmm. The spinach, onion, lettuce, tomato, ham, cheese, mustard, mayonnaise.
Yeah, see, now you lost me at the dressing.
Yeah.
Oh. Like, and that's another thing. You will absolutely live off of ranch and blue cheese.
Yes.
Like, there is no other dressings.
Yes, there is. There's mustard and mayonnaise.
Okay, so there's 3 dressings that are acceptable to him. None of which do I like.
Yeah.
Like, I only like ranch if I'm having, like, fried mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Like, deep fried mushrooms. Like, then I'm all about some ranch. I love some ranch.
Yeah.
Mostly to avoid first-degree burns on my tongue. Because I am not an adult, and I cannot wait for them to cool.
Right.
Before I try to put one in my mouth.
Right.
So ranch, ice cold ranch is very helpful there. It helps.
Yeah.
But no, I don't do, like, I like blue cheese, but I don't love it on everything. Like, and if I'm doing a salad, like, no, I think there's a whole world of salad dressings.
Yes, most of them are used for pork.
Yes, I love my vinaigrettes, okay?
They're lovely as a meat tenderizer.
They are. They make wonderful marinades.
I make lovely marinades out of them, especially that raspberry one he got. Pork chops.
Yeah, the only acceptable use you find for my salad dressing is it's a marinade. And I'm like, no. Like, no. Well, and there was also a brief moment there. I think we had to have a small conversation about, like, your selection of dressings and how much they cost versus my selection of dressings and how much I will spend. Because there was one you were gung-ho to turn into a marinade right up until you went to replace it.
No. There was one that is a marinade.
Mm-hmm.
And okay. Yeah, I like the more upper class ranch, but I don't buy it if I'm just having a salad.
Well, yeah, and I get that, but you are very, like, you are perfectly happy with, like, Hidden Valley Ranch, plastic bottle, like, $2.29.
Actually, I prefer Wishbone, but
hey, Wishbone,
yeah,
$3.79, something like that.
Yeah.
I have an unfortunate tendency, like taking me down the dressing aisle is bad, all right? Because I have a tendency to get drawn in by a salad dressing, and I don't. That's the one place I really don't look at price tags. Like I just do. Well, I should, but I don't. And like I get drawn into the dressing, and I don't care that it's like this big and it costs like $8.
See, I don't care that it costs $8 and it's that big either. What I care about is 2 months later, when it's at the bottom of my refrigerator, unopened, expired a month ago, then I care.
But you know, like some people have books. I have salad dressings that I haven't gotten to.
And you have books you haven't gotten to, too.
I know, but more importantly, I have lots of salad dressings I haven't gotten to. Like, the cost of the books I haven't read yet, and the fact they don't expire helps. But the cost of the books that I haven't read yet, not so bad. The cost of salad dressings we have had to throw out because they expired before I could get to them. Yeah, even I have to feel bad on that one.
Yeah. That's why he buys his salad dressing, or I take it out of his budget.
Oh. What? It's not that bad.
Honey, we threw out over $300 worth of dressing when I cleaned out your refrigerator the second weekend we dated, because there was stuff in there that was 10 years old. 10 years, ladies, 10 years old.
I'm not saying he's wrong, and I'm not saying that all of it was unopened. But yes, we threw out probably about $300 worth of salad dressing.
That he allowed expired.
You know, but like some of them, like, have you ever had a moment where something's too good to eat? Like you don't want to waste it? Oh. So yeah, Brenda says Walden Farms, they have a ranch.
Yeah.
Vinaigrettes, zero sugar. I'm with Joe, mainly vinaigrettes. Yeah. Like you can, like I will totally get in on a vinaigrette, like just raspberry vinaigrette. There was a lemon poppy seed one a while back that I was like, oh my
That
god,
was delicious on chicken.
Like this is what basically happens now: is I buy salad dressing, I use it one time because I don't want to waste it. And then it becomes marinade.
You get until a week before its expiration date, and then it becomes your dinner.
Basically. The sad part is sometimes I'm just sitting there like, this was such an unfortunate end for you, poor dressing. See, I'm not so huge on ginger. Like, I had an ex screw that one up for me. Like, yeah, ginger and I don't, like, ginger in a dressing and I don't always get along. It's very specific.
Right. But, you know, that was one of our first rules also.
Oh, yeah.
Do not change my order.
Right?
How rude.
Like, okay, so the rest of the story, real quick. This was a Japanese steakhouse. They had a house ginger sesame something dressing. I wasn't really all that interested. That's not my, like, that wasn't appealing to me. And so not only did my ex change my order once when I said no, and I went, okay, well, fine, I'll try it. I didn't like it. Like, I really didn't like it.
Right.
But then proceeded every time we went to this restaurant, which was almost the only place we ever went, to change that order every single time.
See, and that's something about me. I don't like repeating restaurants that often unless they are offices.
AKA Waffle House, Omelet Spot, IHOP.
Don't. This is done.
Don't tell me you can't eat at like one of those 7 days a week.
No, I can't eat one of those 7 days a week, honey. I'm diabetic.
I didn't say shouldn't you. I said you could.
Uh-huh.
I didn't say it would be a bad life choice. I'm saying you could.
Mm-hmm. Now, I can eat a Japanese or Thai 7 days a week. And I can cook Thai 7 days a week. Although you get...
What?
You would get wore out.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, my purchase of dressings is...
Right.
But I don't do it often.
I know you don't. He also doesn't go to the grocery... Well, no, you go to the grocery store often.
I was going to say, what you talking about, Willis?
I send you there all the time with a list.
But I don't come home with random dressings most of the time.
Uh-huh.
Like, I've probably, since we've been together, come home, as in I got sent to the store by myself. Nowhere on that list was salad dressing.
Uh-huh.
I may have come home with 3 adoptables.
Uh-huh.
Like, I think 3 is all we're at.
Granted, but I'm still trying to figure out how you spent $90 at the store one day. I sent him for 4 items. Comes home with $90 worth of stuff. I'm like, how? How?
What?
That's when I started putting brand names on stuff.
What? I'm not familiar with this trip.
Last August I sent you to the store. I needed half and half. I needed mayo. I think we needed some dog food and soda.
Okay, the dog food is probably where this all fell apart.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you've never broken my cardinal rule on the only mayonnaise that exists.
Well, no, I spent enough time in the South to know that you don't argue about people's mayonnaise choices.
Right.
It's like a gender identity or a sexual orientation. You don't argue someone's mayonnaise orientation.
Right.
What you can't. Like, you can't. I swear to God, you can't.
Exactly. Duke's is the only mayonnaise that exists. Anything else other than what Joe makes at home that tastes like Duke's is not mayonnaise. Hellman's does not make mayonnaise. They make Miracle Whip.
Oh, see, some of us grew up with that.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Or salad dressing, one of the two.
Well, you know. Like, I blame my mother, really, I do. That carrot and raisin salad, that's where I became a weirdo about salad dressing. Because, of course, you know it was made with Hellman's.
I can make it with Duke's and you'll love it.
I probably won't, actually.
Yeah, you will. Especially if I remember to add the lemon juice to it.
There's the... See, we're getting into the mayonnaise orientation.
Uh-huh.
Like, you're over here going Duke's is the only mayonnaise. We've got Ashley
was
over here going Hellman's is the only mayo.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Lord. We're going to start debating barbecues in a minute. We better wrap this up.
No, there's 5 different barbecues, and I hate the Hawaiian.
Okay.
But we do need to wrap this up.
We do. We do. Oh, so yeah. So we do want to thank our lovely supporters, Beverly Walker, Mika G, Kathy, Mary Winfield, Brenda Bryant, Ashley Guest, Shannon C, Shannon D, the ever wonderful Lady Gwendolyn, Charles Shaw, and Dottie the Psychic. If you'd like to learn more about us, the show, or how you too can become one of our Patreon sponsors and receive all the wonderful benefits that our baristas receive, please visit us at PCSPnetwork.com.
Yes. Now, reminder baristas, we have a barista chat tomorrow night at 6 p.m. I'll be posting the Zoom link here in a little bit for it over on Patreon. Yes, it's at 6 p.m. because we have divination night at 8 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We do. We almost double booked, and no.
The new planner system's in place so that we don't do that.
It is.
Yes. All right, guys, you guys have a wonderful night. If you are just one of our viewers, thank you. Remember to do the likey thing, the reacty thing, the subscribey thing, and be looking for more content coming to the public. Our baristas have been really great, and I'm hoping to hear feedback tomorrow night about our planners, and you may be getting some more planner videos put out, and other content coming along the way. Also, baristas, thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the new videos that have gone out today. You may have gotten a lot of emails. I'm sorry. I just didn't think an hour-and-a-half video of me playing with a planner system would be interesting, so I broke it up into pieces. And we will see you again Friday night talking about hot topics. You guys have a great night. Good night, y'all.
Good night.
You can't tell me the deck is stacked.